Wow. Hi guys, welcome to day 10 and Exodus 10. Wow, what amazing things have happened over the last few days. Unless of course you're an Egyptian in those times. And then it would have been quite scary, wouldn't it? That the plagues that God was sending and they were just being ramped up. And note that each time, each plague, Moses went back to Pharaoh and said, look, let God's people go. Let God's people go. And each time the Pharaoh's heart was hardened. So it says, but now you can guess what happens next in Egypt when Pharaoh continues to disobey God and oppress his chosen people. The Israelites, God sends an 8th plague, empowering Moses to cause a wind that blows locusts all across Egypt, devouring everything. It must have been a nightmare of an occasion. And then the 9th plague is brought against Egypt, total darkness. And we read in Exodus 10, then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand towards the sky so that darkness spreads over Egypt, darkness that can be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward the sky, and total darkness covered all of Egypt for 3 days. No one could see anyone else or move about for 3 days. Complete social isolation. Yet all the Israelites had light in the places where they lived. And you see, that 9th plague is quite symbolic. Life without God is darkness. The Egyptians who rejected God were left to live in 3 days. Were left to live 3 days in literal darkness. They couldn't see the world around them. They didn't know where they were going. They were probably scared, lonely, and yearning for a better way to view the world. That sounds a bit like, okay, we're not in darkness in this pandemic times, but I bet people have felt that, lonely, scared, yearning for a better world when they can go and see their relations, when they can go and see their friends, when they can hug someone, perhaps not knowing where they're going. But note, it says in the Bible, yet all the Israelites, Exodus 10:23, yet all the Israelites had light in the places where they lived. See, when we try to go through life without God, there's an inevitable darkness that it's hard to overcome. But in John 8:21, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. It's through Jesus that we see the world clearly and we gain clear vision as to where we're supposed to be going. And at this time, when perhaps you may have been feeling dark or lost, again look to God. He is the light of the world. He's the light for our lives. As individuals and as communities, He is the light. He brings clarity and a new world vision, a new view of the world that allows you to see His glaring goodness regardless of the world's difficult darkness. It says in Psalm 23, even though I walk through the valley of darkness, I don't need to worry. I don't need to fear because God, you're there with me. You are my rod and my staff. You are my light. You are the one that shines. And in this time, if you're feeling scared and lonely, know that God is walking with you. And He will shine His light so that we can see. So when we meet together, remind us of that. When you're social mediaing together, remind yourself of that God is light. And then He says, you are the light of the world. So let us shine our lights. When we're walking and we're 2 meters away from the person across the street, perhaps say hello. Perhaps wave at people. Bring light in the darkness, even when we're apart. Bring light in the darkness, because God shines in you so that you can shine out. Guys, what a great story. It's only going to get better as we move on to Passover, when God finally sets His people free.